While medieval Europe burned books and persecuted scholars during the so-called Dark Ages, a beacon of knowledge was shining brilliantly in West Africa. This wasn't just any city. It was Timbuktu, one of the world's greatest centers of learning, a place where scholarship wasn't just tolerated but celebrated. This is the story of a time when Africa had world-class universities, and Europe was still finding its way out of the darkness. Intro music with dramatic visuals, animated maps showing the Mali Empire, stylized manuscripts, and artist renderings of ancient Timbuktu verses, dark, shadowy scenes of medieval Europe. Picture this. It's the 14th century. Europe is grappling with war, plague, and religious dogma that often stifles scientific inquiry. Scholars who dare to challenge the established order risk being branded heretics. Books are rare, precious, and often chained to desks in monastic libraries, accessible to only a select few. In many places, knowledge is seen as a threat. Now let's shift our focus thousands of miles south to the edge of the Sahara Desert. Here, in the heart of the mighty Mali Empire, the city of Timbuktu is entering its golden age. It's a bustling hub of commerce, culture, and, most importantly, intellect. Camel caravans arrive not just with salt and gold, but with something far more valuable: books. The city's reputation as a center for scholarship is spreading across the entire known world. The architect of this intellectual renaissance was the legendary Emperor Mansa Musa. You have probably heard of him as the richest man in history, but his wealth was matched only by his vision. After his famous pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, a journey that literally put his empire on the map, he returned with a mission. He wasn't just content with building a powerful empire. He wanted to build an empire of the mind. Mansa Musa commissioned the construction of magnificent mosques that would double as centers of learning, including the legendary Jingerbur Mosque. He understood that to build a great city of knowledge, you needed the greatest minds. Actively recruited scholars, poets, mathematicians, and jurists from across the Islamic world, from Cairo to Baghdad, offering them generous salaries and the one thing every intellectual craves: academic freedom. He transformed Timbuktu from a prosperous trading post into the intellectual capital of Africa. By the 15th and 16th centuries, under the subsequent Songhai Empire, Timbuktu's academic infrastructure had blossomed into a system that would rival any in the world. The city wasn't just home to one university, but a network of them. The three great universities, or Mosque Madrasas, were Sankore, Sidi Yahya, and Jingerbur. But it didn't stop there. Over 180 smaller Quranic schools, or madrasas, were scattered throughout the city, creating an ecosystem of education for thousands. Let's put this into perspective. The curriculum in Timbuktu was astoundingly diverse. While theology and Islamic law were cornerstones, the scholarship extended into every conceivable field of human knowledge. Students and masters debated complex legal theories, mapped the stars, and advanced the fields of medicine. They delved into mathematics, chemistry, history, geography, philosophy, and art. The manuscripts that survived from this era are a testament to this incredible intellectual breadth. They contain detailed astronomical charts, sophisticated mathematical formulas, and medical treatises on topics from ophthalmology to surgery. One of the most truly remarkable, a standout figure whose impact still resonates today in so many ways. Figures from this period was Ahmad Baba al-Timbukti, jurist, professor, and prolific writer. He was the last chancellor of the University of Sankore before tragedy struck. Ahmad Baba alone is said to have written over 40 books on subjects ranging from law to grammar. He owned a personal library of over 1,600 fascinating volumes that covered everything from adventure tales to deep philosophy. And he was just one of many. The sheer volume of written material was staggering. It's estimated that Timbuktu once held over 700,000 manuscripts. In an age before the printing press, this was an almost unimaginable repository of human knowledge. The book trade was one of Timbuktu's most profitable industries, often more lucrative than the trade in gold itself. Scribes meticulously copied text by hand, creating beautiful, leather-bound volumes that were bought, sold, and treasured. A culture of books permeated the city. While the Catholic Church in Europe was publishing its index of forbidden books and the Inquisition was suppressing knowledge it deemed heretical, Timbuktu was a city where books were a symbol of wealth, status, and wisdom. The free exchange of ideas was the lifeblood of the city. This golden age, however, was not destined to last forever. In 1591, the Moroccan Sultan, seeking to control the trans-Saharan trade routes, sent an army armed with European firearms across the desert. The Songhai Empire, armed with traditional weapons, was defeated at the Battle of Tandabih. The invasion was a catastrophe for Timbuktu. The Moroccan forces looted the city, and their leaders specifically targeted its intellectual heart. Scholars were seen as a threat, their influence a challenge to the new authority. Many, including the great Ahmad Baba, were arrested and exiled to Morocco. Libraries were pillaged, and countless manuscripts were destroyed or stolen. Ahmad Baba famously lamented that his library of 1,600 books was one of the smallest among his circle of fellow scholars. Imagine what was lost. The intellectual light of West Africa was deliberately and violently extinguished. But the story doesn't end there. In the face of this cultural destruction, the people of Timbuktu began a centuries-long act of resistance. Families took it upon themselves to become secret librarians, the guardians of this priceless heritage. They hid the manuscripts, burying them in chests under the desert sand, sealing them in the walls of their homes and stashing them in remote caves. For generations, these families passed down the texts, protecting them from invaders, colonial authorities, and the ravages of time itself. They knew the value of what they were saving, the proof of their ancestors' genius. When European explorers finally reached Timbuktu in the 19th century, they found a city that was a shadow of its former self. They dismissed it as a dusty, diminished town, their own biases blinding them to the truth hidden just beneath the surface. They propagated the myth of a continent without history, without writing, without civilization. They saw what they wanted to see, and the story of Timbuktu's golden age was conveniently buried, just like the manuscripts themselves. Today, that narrative is being shattered. Thousands of these manuscripts have been recovered, and a desperate race against time is underway to preserve them. These delicate pages, threatened by the desert climate and modern instability, are being painstakingly digitized and conserved. Each rediscovered text is a direct rebuttal to the colonial narrative. They are tangible proof of a sophisticated African intellectual tradition that rivaled, and in some cases surpassed, anything happening in medieval Europe. They tell a story of a time when African scholars were grappling with the biggest questions of the universe. While much of Europe was still emerging from a period of relative intellectual stagnation, while Europe burned books, Timbuktu built libraries. While Europe restricted knowledge, Timbuktu celebrated scholars. And while Europe struggled through darkness, Africa had a golden age of learning. The manuscript survived. The truth survived. If you want more untold stories of African achievement, hit subscribe. New videos 3 times a week. Next, another chapter of history they tried to erase.